In this video I'm going to describe how to build equivalent fractions. And building equivalent fractions along with finding an LCD is the bedrock for adding and subtracting fractions that don't have a common denominator. So if you haven't watched the video on how to find a least common denominator, make sure you do that before you watch this one. Now, two fractions are equivalent if they have the same value. So the idea will be that we'll start with an original fraction, we'll find a least common denominator, and then we'll figure out what factor of 1 we need to multiply the original fraction by to get our equivalent fraction. Multiplying by 1 is a common technique when we work with fractions, and it's based on the multiplicative identity. That is, multiplying by 1 in whatever form might change the way the fraction looks, but it won't change the fraction's value. So we're going to have an original fraction. I'm going to give you a new denominator. Your job will be to find the form of 1 I need so that when I multiply my original fraction by 1, it will have the new denominator, but will have the original value. I'll do this first one so you can see how it works. Say I started with 4/5, and say I also knew that my new denominator had to be a 20. My job would be to figure out the form of 1 to multiply 4/5 by, so that my equivalent fraction still has the value 4/5, but also has the denominator 20. Now there's a couple ways to do this. One is you can just look at it and figure it out. Most of you can see that if you multiply 5 by a factor of 4, you get a 20. If you can't just look at the original fraction and figure out the factor you need, just take your new denominator, use a calculator to divide by your original denominator, and you'll see what form of 1 you need. For instance here, if I started with 20 and divided by 5, I can see I need a factor of 4. So the form of 1 I want is 4/4. 4 times 5 will give me 20, and 4 times 4 will give me 16. And there's my equivalent fraction. It still has the value 4/5, but I know it still has the value 4/5 because I multiplied by 1, but it also has the denominator I needed of 20. Here's one for you to work with. Please figure out the form of 1 you need to multiply by. In this case, I'm starting with a factor of 8, and I need a product of 40, so the form I'll need is 5/5. 5 times 8 gives me my 40, and 5 times 7 gives me 35. How about this one? The fact that my original fraction's negative really doesn't affect things. 54 divided by 18 gives me a factor of 3. So the form of 1 I need is 3/3. 3 times 18 gives me 54, and 3 times -5 gives me -15. How about here? 180 divided by 15 gives me 12, so I'll need the form of 1 12/12, and my new numerator will be 96. And here's the last one. This is for those of you that may have not been using a calculator to figure out what you needed. I think everybody's going to need to use a calculator here. 806 divided by 26 gives me a factor of 31. Multiplying the original numerator by 31 gives me 155. And since my original fraction was negative, my equivalent fraction must also be negative. That concludes this video where we practiced building equivalent fractions.